A court in Mumbai has temporarily lifted a government prohibition on foreign couples using Indian surrogate mothers, clearing the way for 2 fertility clinics in the city to keep serving clients from abroad. Now, last week, the Indian Council of Medical Research instructed clinics not to allow foreigners to employ Indian women as surrogates, part of a government effort to impose tighter limits on a growing industry that has raised concerns about exploitation of women amid growing controversy about so-called wombs for rent and fertility clinics dubbed as baby factories. A government source said that India will no longer serve as the surrogacy capital of the world. The question is commercial surrogacy evolving into surrogacy tourism? What are the implications of letting foreigners place orders for babies in India? Why do major countries of the world not allow commercial surrogacy in the first place? Let's try and find out in this 1 hour. Welcome to Gender Discourse. I'm Lotty, Alaric. To carry this discussion forward, I have in the studio a distinguished panel of guests, and I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Abha Majumdar, who's the head of the Department of Gynec and Obs at the Gangaram Hospital and is also heading the fertility unit of the hospital. So thank you for being here. Then we have with us Editor Mint, Gender Editor Mint, Ms. Namita Bhandare. Welcome to the show. And we have with us a senior advocate, Mr. Ravinder Kumar. Welcome to the show, sir. And I have a very special guest with me this evening. She's a surrogate and she's 7 months into her pregnancy and she's called Priya. Priya, बहुत shukriya aapka aane ka. All right, Abha, let me just begin with you. First, let's have first things first. Surrogacy. Many people may not really know the true meaning of surrogacy. What does it really mean in the context of India?
See, surrogacy means that a couple where the man has normal sperms and the woman has her eggs, but somehow her uterus is either diseased or not there, or there is a problem and it can't carry a child. So a uterus is required and hence a surrogate is employed who has an intact and normal uterus. And the gametes from this couple who want to have a child are taken through IVF, the egg and sperm are put together, an embryo is made and that is transferred into the uterus of the surrogate to rear over there for the next 9 months. And this surrogate carries that child as if she's had her own child for 9 months and at the end she delivers this child like any other woman does. So this is known as a surrogate mother because she's not the genetic mother of the child and yet she is bearing the child for 9 months. So she is truly a gestational mother who will deliver the child which is made of gametes of parents, of the intending parents. That is what surrogacy in India at the moment is.
All right. Now, Namita, let's try and explain the viewers as to where does India really stand, or where did it stand when this whole thing started about surrogacy and it was legal for people to come from abroad and, you know, actually place an order for a baby. It was as good as that.
Yeah. I think Dr. Majumdar is better placed to trace the history of IVF.
Right.
You know, surrogacy tends to get the most press because it is so sensational, wombs for rent. But IVF is actually a very, very large area. It's a very large medical area that has been around in India itself for over 20 years.
Right.
Surrogacy probably would make up, I would imagine, in most gynec practices would make up 2%, maybe 5%. And surrogacy by foreigners an even smaller percent. The reason why we don't know is because this industry amazingly has for the last 25 years been unregulated. So you have guidelines but you do not have laws.
Correct.
Lot of the disclosures by ART, which is assisted reproductive technology. So a lot of the disclosures by ART clinics are voluntary. We don't even know how many cycles take place every year. We do not know what is the size of the industry. We do not know, and you know, as Dr. Majumdar was explaining, surrogacy is when you are using a third-party womb. But sometimes, and please correct me if I'm wrong, doctor, sometimes the sperm donor may be a 4th person. The egg donor may come from a 5th person. It doesn't have to always be the you don't use the eggs of the surrogate because obviously this is against the guidelines and probably one of the reasons is that she should not claim any legal rights on the child that she is carrying.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be that the egg and the sperm come from the commissioning parents. The egg and the sperm may come from fourth and fifth parties. So it's a very complex arrangement, and a lot of very complex issues are thrown up. Who is a parent? How do you define a parent in a situation where the egg comes from someone, the sperm comes from someone, the surrogate is someone, but the commissioning parents are somebody else.
That's right. Okay. Well, Mr. Ravinder Kumar, I think you'll have to put everything in perspective. Tell us clearly as to where do we stand on the legal front.
Legal front, there is as it has been rightly said that there are guidelines only.
Right.
And Law Commission has gone through the total spectrum of this, we call it in legal terms, that is a womb on rent.
Right.
And we call it that because the surrogated mother who is producing the child, she has no emotional or legal right on the child. So Law Commission in its report of 228, it has delivered everything, and after having discussing every aspect, they submitted a report to the Government of India. After that, Government of India has made a bill which is called Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill 2013, and which is pending in the Parliament,
right,
because Parliament was dissolved. So now it has been to come up again in the court. Somebody has filed a case in Gujarat High Court. There was a case of a Japanese grandmother. She was a lady of 70 years, Yamelda. She wanted a surrogated mother in Gujarat, and there a child was born. The name of girl child was Majia Yamelda, and there was a problem because Japanese government was not accepting that whether they will permit that child to enter into Japan, and Government of India has to give a exit permission. So later on the matter was resolved with the consent of both the parties in the court of Gujarat, and then it was made first case in the history of Indian legal system that how the problems of genetic and surrogated mother and child can be prop up. So now the matter in various courts is pending, and legal aspect of this matter is not only legal, but it is psychological, economical, and others.
Right.
And you have rightly said that baby farming is very much cropping up in India, and there is estimate that 3,000 children have been being born in India through surrogated mother, and it is an industry of 1,000 crore rupees annual in India.
So that's how that's the
magnitude is very high.
Magnitude is very high. That's right. अच्छा प्रिया, आप हमें बताएं कि आप एक सरोगेट मदर हैं, तो ये आपकी पहली प्रेगनेंसी है क्या?
नहीं, दूसरी है।
दूसरी है। तो आपके अपने बच्चे कितने हैं?
एक बच्चे है।
ओके, तो आपने कैसे सोचा कि आपको ये सरोगेसी करनी चाहिए?
हम कंपनी में काम करते थे ना, तो वहाँ पर एक लेडीज कराई थी पहले, तो बोला तुम भी करा लो, तो इसी चलते मैं भी आ गया।
तो तुमने कैसे अपने पति को समझाया, या कैसे आपको फैमिली में कोई प्रॉब्लम आई, कुछ हुआ जब आपने ये निर्णय लिया कि आप ये ऐसा करना चाह रही?
नहीं, मेरे प्रॉब्लम थी यही से, बच्चे को पढ़ाई की दिक्कत होती थी, किराए के घर में रहते हैं, तो इसलिए सोचे से मैं करा लेते हैं, पैसे बोला से मिलेगा वहाँ
जी।
हमको बच्चा करना ही नहीं, एक ही बच्चा रखना है, तो हम सराय से करवाए।
तो आपका ख्याल रखा जाता है अच्छे से, और आप खुश हैं अपनी इस सिचुएशन से?
हम बहुत खुश हैं।
All right. So this clearly shows that this gives them that extra buck. But now I would want to know the magnitude of this sum, because there's a lot of ambiguity again there, because the costs of surrogacy are so high, sometimes to the tune of 20 to 25 lakhs. But I'll ask her, of course, in a while as to how much she's getting, if she would be comfortable discussing. But you tell me, I mean, how much does a woman really make?
Lottie, let me tell you the crux of the problem. Yeah. We have IVF where we use the husband and wife's gametes and make a baby for them.
Right.
So this is like straightforward treating them by IVF and having a baby. Then comes a problem of commercial sperm donation. That on some price there are semen banks from where they can go and buy sperm, and if there is no sperm from the husband's side, that can be used for conception, whichever way. Then comes a problem of egg donation. Now, because eggs still cannot be stored very comfortably, and scientifically we don't have methods to really give us very good oocyte preservation, so they have to be taken fresh, and for them, because they are discharged inside the body, we have to have means to collect them from there. and because one egg is discharged, it's not enough for IVF, so we have to stimulate the lady.
Correct.
So it becomes more complex than sperm donation, but this is also commercial, right? And the law the guidelines say that yes, the oocyte donor is allowed commercially and should be anonymous, like sperm donation. Then comes a surrogate, the third problem. It's the egg, it's the sperm, and then the uterus. Now, when it comes to surrogacy, that becomes the biggest problem. Why? Because of three things. One is that the mother has to carry a child for 9 complete months.
That's right.
So it's a huge period. Two is this, that there is life-threatening problems which can arise during pregnancy, which are much higher than oocyte donation. And the third thing is that there is a commissioning parent who is at the receiving end, and there is a surrogate who is at the receiving end. To put them together, we need another third party or an agent or a so-called ART bank, in legal words.
Right.
Now, this person brings them together. I started, maybe the first surrogate happened in the year 2000. I started my IVF practice in the 1990s.
Right.
And at that time, a surrogate mother still got 2.5 lakhs, which was a huge amount then. Today also a surrogate mother gets the same. But the price for surrogacy has jumped from that 2.5 lakhs with about 50,000 with the legal papers, which I'm sure our lawyer will agree that is the amount which goes in making all the legal documents, not more than that. The price of surrogacy from this 3 lakh has jumped up to anywhere between 25 to 30 lakhs. Why? Because there are people who can afford that money, and who are those? Mostly people who come from abroad, because surrogacy is extremely expensive.
True.
And then another problem, like you just said,
not every country allows also
all
surrogacy.
the developed countries don't allow, because they know they will open up a Pandora's box of all misconduct, or I would say malpractices. In this area, we are all intelligent human breed. We can always find loopholes. Single males disallowed, go to Nepal and transfer embryos on surrogates. Nepal disallowed, go to Croatia and transfer embryos. So we keep on finding easy routes out. So it's a very fertile brain. We will never leave what we are doing, but we will continue to do, and that is why we need strict regulations. And maybe this price hike which has happened is only because when we started having an influx of foreigners, Indians would not have paid so much. At the most, they would have paid 3, 4, 5. But once they came in, the margin became great, and so Indians also had to increase their prices. And now there are Indians who are ready to pay 15, 16, 20 lakhs. Where does it go? The surrogate still gets the same amount. So it is going in the name of investigations, looking after the woman, the surrogate home, the agent, the law fees, everything. So receiving end is what? Those poor foreigner couples who come to us, or the surrogate mother. Both have their negative points, but those foreigners are still happy, because India is relatively a very, very cheap country. In terms of everything. So that is the magnitude of the problem.
That is the magnitude of the problem.
We have to curb it somewhere. We cannot stop commercial surrogacy. It's a blessing for a lot of couples. But kahin se to shuruaat ho. So maybe by stopping this in 3 years, we don't bring the prices down, we can't help people. Maybe we'll have to stop, like so many countries have stopped, and only allow altruistic, or like the kidney transplant.
I'll come to this also, because there's a lot that needs to be discussed here. But folks, we'll have to slip into a break right now. But when we come back, you too can participate in this forum. All you'll have to do is reach us at 1800115314 and 23035420. Today we are talking about surrogacy and why we are banning foreigners from coming and getting surrogates here and getting their babies. So don't go away, as we'll all see you on the other side. Welcome back. This is Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about foreigners being banned from hiring surrogates in India. Well, folks, so do call us if you have anything to say on what we are debating today. Just pick up your phone and call us at 1800115314 and 23035420. Okay, so Namita, now what are your views on commercial surrogacy and particularly on foreigners coming here for babies?
I find that I agree with some points of Dr. Majumdar, but I do not agree that foreigners should be kept out. You either have a level playing field for all commissioning parents or none. I don't think foreigners come, you know, as added. Of course, there is the reality of their marketplace that they are coming to India either because it is so expensive in their own country. I am told in the US it's upward of $100,000, which works out to about what? In today's rate, 67 lakhs, 68 lakh rupees, as compared to about 20 lakhs. So it is, you know, if you're going to talk about a marketplace and one hesitates to use the term marketplace with something as sensitive as this, but it is a marketplace. So let's recognize that.
So the economics work for them in India.
It does work for them. Also, they come here because in some cases, as Dr. Majumdar pointed out, it is illegal. But I still don't see the logic of our country putting a ban on, you know, I mean, I don't agree with a ban on commercial surrogacy either. I believe that surrogacy, we need to recognize social reality that is taking place under our very noses. We need very tight regulation, very, very tight regulation, and watching not this nonsense of voluntary disclosure by ART clinics that has been going on for 20 years. But I don't see what is the logic of keeping foreigners out. And then where do we stop? Should we therefore allow NRIs but not foreigners?
Yeah, that's
you
what
know,
it says, of Indian origin.
What if one person has an Indian passport but not the other? I mean, you know, I think that
complications could be many.
But I agree very strongly with Dr. Majumdar on the economics of this business, and I use the word, you know, very deliberately, which is that if the clinic is charging 20, 25, I'm told can go even higher, lakh rupees for its services, and the surrogate is getting 3.5 lakh, which, by the way, she gets in installments.
Right.
So she is given some for 5,000 rupees at the time of impregnation. She is given another 30 to 40,000 rupees of the 3 lakhs at various stages. I think 6 months she gets something, 8 months. What happens, for instance, if she miscarries? Does she forego her fee?
That's right.
But her body has undergone, she's undergone a lot of, as Dr. Majumdar pointed, a lot of hormone treatment, which is playing havoc with her.
Correct.
She is, every pregnancy is a risk. You have risk of gestational diabetes, you have all kinds of risk, you know.
True.
So there is a certain risk she's putting, and for that you're getting, and how do the clinics justify the discrepancy between 3 lakh and 30 lakh or 25 lakhs? They need to justify it. So if you had regulation, if you had stringent regulations about fee payment, etc., whether it would apply equally to Indians as well as foreigners. So I do not see the logic in keeping foreigners out. If you're going to allow it for Indians, allow it for everybody.
Right.
Agreed on this, that we need very stringent laws even for Indians. Otherwise, we will have to stand still this great art of commercial surrogacy. It will come to a standstill in a few years. So stringent laws to be implicated are very important, but there is a point where we need to start, and maybe this could be a start, that at least for absolute foreigners we can probably, because see, all developed countries, there are countries which allow a surrogate child to be brought into their country, but they still don't allow commercial surrogacy in their country. And all developed countries know that once they allow, they will not be able to regulate. Indians so badnaam hai. Even the Europeans, the Scandinavians will not be able to regulate their third parties. So it's very difficult to regulate however much law you make, however stringently you allow. We've got the PNDT Act. Who's being penalized? We, who are sitting in the center working in big hospitals. They come and check every line whether you've made a typing error or a writing error. What is still happening in vans in villages? They go and do sex determination and they do abortions. So making a stringent law as strong as PNDT also will not be able to curb unless we stop somewhere, bring the prices down, bring the mother more comfortable. I mean, she who's sitting here, she deserves much more than this. And you're talking about 3 lakhs. I have spoken to surrogates, they get 50, 60, 70 at the end. And they have no clue to what they're getting. Just that little thing that her child will study better. But how long does this last? Not even 2 years, this financial gain. After that, they're back to the same and they want to come back for surrogacy again. So financially, there has been no change in their financial status by this amount, which is given over a period of 1 year.
True, true.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just want,
very
just
quick,
to bring in
because
a very, I know, I'm just a quick rebut.
Yes.
To use a very bad pun, I don't think we should be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I don't agree that let us start somewhere. I feel that for 20 years we've not had a law. We have a bill that has been pending since 2010, in fact. Let's get it right. Let's get all the stakeholders on board, get the surrogates, get the doctors, get civil society. There are lots of NGOs that have been working. Many studies have been commissioned on surrogacy, on the rights, get the lawyers and get it right. Let's have an open dialogue and get it right once and for all. Don't say that, oh, let's stop the foreigners, maybe next year we'll review it and allow them. Let's just get it right.
Okay, now Mr. Kumar, tell me, I think she brought in that point. Now, God forbid if for a surrogate something goes wrong, she has a miscarriage, where does the law stand there? What are the guidelines for that? Is there anything that would be given to her?
One thing I want to make it clear that commercial surrogacy throughout the world is banned. No country has allowed surrogacy, commercial surrogacy. And there was a United Nations convention in 2007. Under Article 6 it has been said, and they have described surrogacy, they have described the damage and danger of surrogacy, and UN itself has said that surrogated mother should not be a commercial activity throughout the world. And we are covenant to that convention of the United Nations. So the question of this, that whether we can allow commercial surrogacy, we can say in the coming years it is a big no. We cannot allow it. Second thing is that when a mother get a child and she has been there is a tri-party agreement between the couple, between the surrogated mother and between the clinic, and it was a comprehensive program in which every step has been deliberately agreed upon. But there are certain aspects in this matter where we find that when a child has been brought up, the parents who has to commission this agreement, they refuse to take the child. And in that situation scenario, the mother has to look after the child, bring that child. The right of the child, they are mostly hampered. We are thinking in terms of the child rights of the mother. But the right of the person or child who is going to be born on this earth, his rights has not been determined till date. And the guideline which has been given, it has gave a certain aspect that mother's consent should be there, her husband's consent should be there, her family members' consent should be there. But after post-birth arrangements, they are very negligible, and that's why that created danger and apprehension in the mind of lawmakers.
Right. Also, tell me, is there a mechanism to the effect that like how much is the agent is going to get, and how much a doctor is going to get, and how much this woman is going to get? And as I asked, if there's a miscarriage, something goes wrong, then is there a is she going to be penalized or something like that, or maybe the money, or is she going to be
actually, there is no agency in India to regulate everything. And in this aspect, it's I can say grey market area. People buy kidneys from the other people. People have been, you can say that doctors, and there's a mafia which is running the kidney racket. The surrogated mother racket is also booming in India.
Kidney is a black market.
Selling
kidneys is illegal. Completely. Let's be clear.
Surrogation is also illegal now because Supreme in a terms, because there is no agency, there is no regulatory agency, and as she has put it down that what can be happen with a mother, like an accident case. Suppose there be accident, major accident, it's a we can say
something is happening,
something goes wrong. So there is no protective umbrella for the lady, for her family. Because
and are they, and also the question is, are they aware of this?
They have never been told. Suppose if I have to pursue a woman that you should be a surrogated mother, you will get it, because we sell our green dreams. We say that has is green there, you go for there and take the grass. But in fact, we are not protecting them. That's why I think that Indian Medical Council, the Law Commission of India, the Women Commission, they have stepped into this, and there are certain deliberations started. Right now, I can say that 5 days back, Supreme Court has banned that home for rent is not allowed for foreigners in India.
Yes, but but there's a news which I started out with to say that for the time being they've let it go. You know, this has happened in Bombay.
No. Supreme Court has given it dictate. So Bombay High Court
that's standing.
That is not standing right now.
Okay. अच्छा प्रिया, आप हमें बताएं कि आपको ये तो उन्होंने बताया होगा कि आपको कितने पैसे मिलेंगे, लेकिन आपको किसी ने ये बताया कि अगर कुछ खुदा ना करे कुछ हो जाता है, बच्चा नहीं, मतलब आप 9 मंथ्स की प्रेगनेंसी तक नहीं पहुंचती हैं, मिसकैरेज हो जाता है, कुछ हो जाता है, तो ऐसे में आपके साथ क्या होगा, या आपको तब भी पैसा मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा? आपको किसी ने कुछ बताया इसके बारे में?
नहीं, जिसके बीच में कुछ प्रॉब्लम होता है तो उसके इलाज करवाते हैं, वो हेल्प करते हैं, पैसे मिलता है,
उसका पैसा आपको मिलेगा।
हाँ,
आप इनसे पूछो, इनको एग्रीमेंट इन्होंने साइन
किया, कुछ आपने साइन किए हैं पेपर?
हाँ, एग्रीमेंट बना हुआ है,
आपको कॉपी मिली है?
और उसकी कॉपी
भी मिला है मेरे पास है।
आपने उसको पढ़ा है, आपने समझा है,
किसी ने पढ़ा है आपके लिए?
नहीं, पढ़े तो नहीं, बाकी समझे हैं, जिसे पढ़ के सुनाए हैं तो समझे हैं, हम समझ है तभी तो ये किए हैं।
But this is where I think the grey area is. Abha, what would you say here? Because God knows who reads out these papers to them, whether they are reading out what is written or not written. That again is something questionable.
There are the guidelines, or the bill has this, that on getting pregnant they get X amount of money, maybe 10% of the total agreement. Then after they cross the first trimester they get maybe 30%, after the second trimester another, and then on delivery they get the whole thing. So by 7th month they've almost got 75 to 90% of the total amount. So even if they sort of are not unable to deliver a viable child, yet they still get some compensation. But then it is a lot of trauma to them. All I feel is that, you know, which are the countries which allow commercial surrogacy for foreigners? Countries like Russia, South Africa. Bangkok was doing it very freely till 2014, when they had to put a ban. I won't bring in the details, but there were problems with a baby being born downs and not taken by the parents. The other baby was taken.
These are again issues which I really want answers to.
Now this poor child goes into an orphanage all his life. Then there were single men who entered the country multiple times. I won't even take the number. You can go into the internet and find 14-15 babies were born. Now, is it child trafficking or is it something else? So they had to put an immediate ban on surrogacy for foreigners. But commercial surrogacy is still allowed over there for people who are from Thailand. So for their own people they have allowed, not for foreigners, because foreigners just take a medical visa, enter a country and can go through a lot of things. Now, like Namita, I agree that we have to have very strict regulations even for Indians undergoing this.
Absolutely. But we have a viewer, let me just take him. He's Gaurav Kohli from Delhi. So Gaurav, if you can hear me, welcome to the show.
मैम, सबसे पहले तो आप सब बधाई के पात्र, लोकसभा टीवी चैनल के लिए बधाई का पात्र, साथ में आप भी, कि आप इतने बढ़िया टॉपिक्स को उठाते हैं जो रेलिवेंट होते हैं हमारी जिंदगी की, डेली जिंदगी की लाइफ से। मैडम, मेरे इसमें 3 क्वेश्चन है। पहला क्वेश्चन सिर्फ ये है कि अगर बाई चांस जुड़वा बच्चे हो जाते हैं, लड़का लड़की, और एग्रीमेंट लड़के के लिए हुआ हुआ है, और लड़की 2 लड़कियां पैदा हो जाती हैं, उस केस में क्या होगा? और अगर जुड़वा होते हैं, अगर बाई चांस जुड़वा बच्चे पैदा हो जाते हैं और एग्रीमेंट हुआ है लड़के के लिए, लड़की के लिए,
ऐसा कोई एग्रीमेंट होता नहीं है जहां तक मेरी जानकारी है।
और दूसरी चीज उसमें मैडम ये है कि अगर लड़की बच्चा पैदा होने के बाद कहती है मैं वापस नहीं देना चाहती हूँ, मैं वापस बच्चे को मतलब नहीं देना चाहती हूँ, एग्रीमेंट को मैं नल एंड वॉइड करना चाह रही हूँ, उस केस में क्या रहेगा, पोजीशन क्या रहेगी उस बच्चे की? और थर्ड क्वेश्चन मैडम पैटर्निटी से रिलेटेड है कि अगर भगवान ना करे कि जो फादर है जिसका सीमन टेस्ट ट्यूब बेबी में डला है, अगर वो एक्सपायर कर जाता है जिसके साथ एग्रीमेंट हुआ था, तो उस केस में अब वो क्लेम ही नहीं करने आ रहा है, तो उस केस में क्या पोजीशन रहेगी इस लेडी की जो आपके साथ बैठी हुई है? अगर बाई चांस किसी हादसे में, रोड एक्सीडेंट या किसी भी और हादसे में अगर कुछ ऐसा हो जाता है, तो उस केस में पैटर्निटी
आप क्या कमीशनिंग पेरेंट्स की बात कर रहे हैं? आप किसकी बात कर रहे हैं?
मैडम, जो सरोगेट जिन्होंने मतलब इनको
कमीशन किया,
वॉर्म में इनके जो करवाया
समझ गई मैं, ठीक है। ओके गौरव, आई हैव गॉट ऑल योर क्वेश्चंस, बट अब आपको बहुत सारे अपने सवाल पूछ लिए, तो अब थोड़ा सा इंतजार भी करना होगा, बिकॉज वी नीड टू स्लिप इनटू अ ब्रेक एंड दे ऑल नीड टू कैच देयर ब्रेथ टू गिव द आंसर्स टू ऑल योर 4 क्वेश्चंस. So don't go away, and everybody else, please keep your questions ready as we are coming back in just a moment. Welcome back. This is Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about surrogacy being banned for foreigners in India. Well, folks, you can call us. Lines are still open. The numbers are on your screen: 1800115314 and 23035420. Now, I hope Gaurav Kohli is still tuned in. He had not 3 but 4 questions, I think. And Dr. Abha, please, one by one, you can go. If there are twins, then what happens, and whether there can be any agreement for a sex-selected baby, and what happens if a mother does not want to return the baby, and something he asked about the commissioning parents if one of them expires. And so just
the first question is, there is no possibility of sex selection in IVF babies.
Right.
So whether it is a boy or a girl, the agreement doesn't really even think about it.
Correct.
Because sex selection is illegal in our country. 2 is that if there are twins, a lot of commissioning parents are very happy. It is the surrogate who bears the brunt of carrying the twins and the risk associated with twin pregnancy, including the risk of increased cesarean section.
Right.
Almost 100% of women having twins go for a cesarean section. So commissioning parents would be very happy कि दो की price, एक की price में दो मिलेंगे, but it is the surrogate mother who goes on to risk here. So we really do not deliberately want that a surrogate should have twins, and then there is a clause in this that if there is a twin pregnancy, the surrogate gets a higher compensation, which they are hardly aware of. They don't even know. It's written in few lines. I'm sure our lawyer friend would agree to it. But this is only for the commissioning parents, that they pay a higher price if the surrogate carries a twin. Third is that if something happens to the father, there is a legal contract that if the father or mother, anyone is alive, they will take the child. And if by mishap both of the parents died, they always have to have another parent, which is a commissioning parent ka associate, who would be named in the contract after them, who will take custody of this child within a month of being delivered.
Like a co-applicant in a bank.
Yeah,
something
it is like that. Yeah,
something like that. Okay. We have another viewer now. I hope he's still there with us. He's NL Sehdev from Faridabad. So are you there with me?
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Sehdev.
हाँ जी.
जी, welcome to the show and please go ahead.
हाँ मैडम, ये फॉरेनर के लिए जो बैन के लिए सरोगेसी का चल रहा है आपका यहाँ प्रोग्राम.
जी.
गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू.
गुड इवनिंग टू यू.
मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ, जैसे ये मैडम जो इन्होंने बताया सरोगेसी मदर के लिए जा रही हैं, इनको पढ़ के सुनाया गया, तो जरूरी नहीं है कि जो इनको दी है वही पढ़ के सुनाया गया हो. इनको किसी 1-2 और से कंफर्म कर लेना चाहिए. एंड सेकंडली जो फॉरेनर का बैन का क्वेश्चन है कि वो मतलब इट शुड बी गिवन ए वेरी केयरफुल थॉट व्हाइल अलाउइंग देम इफ दे आर अलाउड, बिकॉज देयर इज a risk of, in spite of having all agreements, they can run away or can deceive in any way. Thank you.
Yeah, right. I think I'd let the lawyer take all these.
हिंदी में उन्होंने सवाल पूछा है, तो मैं इनको इसलिए जवाब दे रहा हूँ क्योंकि जैसे कि उन्होंने कहा कि जिस तरह का एग्रीमेंट है, हो सकता है इनके साथ कोई धोखाधड़ी हो जाए. हिंदुस्तान में होती भी बहुत है. तो मेरा गवर्नमेंट को सजेशन ये है कि इसके लिए गवर्नमेंट एक मॉडल एग्रीमेंट बनाए और ताकि उसकी टर्म्स जो हैं, बहुत सारी टर्म्स हैं, वो हर एक के लिए कंपलसरी हो कि वो उसे माने. तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ चाइल्ड एंड वुमेन वेलफेयर जो है इस बारे में अगर आगे आए और एक इस तरह का एग्रीमेंट बनाए और हर एक के लिए कंपलसरी करे, तो ज़्यादा जितने भी क्लिनिक हैं सरोगेटिक मदर्स की ट्रीटमेंट के, वो उसको एडहेयर करेंगे और इससे जो है आने वाला जो बच्चा है उसके भी चाइल्ड को भी प्रोटेक्शन मिलेगी, सरोगेटेड मदर को भी मिलेगी और जो कमीशन करने वाले पेरेंट्स हैं उनको भी मदद मिलेगी. एक सवाल पहले वाले व्यूअर ने पूछा था कि अगर माँ कहे कि मैं नहीं देती बच्चा, तो ये मुकदमा ऑलरेडी चल रहा है.
अच्छा.
आया, माँ ने बच्चा पैदा किया, बच्चा बड़ा सुंदर था.
अच्छा.
वो मेल चाइल्ड था, उसके पहले 2 लड़कियां थी, उसने कहा मैं नहीं देती, तो नहीं देती, तो इस बात का मुकदमा भी चल रहा है और कोर्ट ने अभी तक ये कहा है कि ये माँ का राइट है कि वो बच्चे को रखे. फर्स्ट शी हैज अ राइट.
Really?
Commissioning mother or
No,
the one who has born
the gestational mother is always the legal mother of the child unless proven otherwise. And proven otherwise is by DNA testing.
लेकिन अभी ये मैटर जो है सुप्रीम कोर्ट में आना है. जब ये
तो अभी बच्चा सरोगेट के पास ही है.
सरोगेट के पास है. बच्चे की उम्र 3-3.5 साल हो गई है.
अच्छा.
और जो फादर है वही वाज जर्मन नेशनल, तो उसको कोर्ट ने कहा कि तुम अपनी वाइफ को लाओ, बट ही वाज ए मेल यंग पर्सन हु इज नॉट मैरिड. So he has, because in Germany people do not marry. 90% people are, you find that they are unmarried. So he has no wife. So court has gave a judgment in favor of the mother.
Right, interesting case. Well, we have another viewer. This is NT Tripathi. So, Mr. Tripathi, welcome to the show. What's your question?
Well, I'm VMT Tripathi.
Right.
Ex-Director, Medical Institute, BHU.
Okay. Sir, please lower down the volume of your TV set because your voice is echoing.
Is very interesting, scientific.
Very quickly, sir.
Lowering down the volume.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
My question is that this is the only country where a woman is treated as mother. Perhaps the greatest god in this country is Mother Durga.
Sir, kindly lower down the volume because I'm afraid I will not be able to continue with your call otherwise.
All right.
Yeah.
My question is one.
Yes.
That it is said in Durga Sapsati that Vidya Samasta Tav Devi Rupa Striya Samasta Sakala Jagatsu. सारे जगत की स्त्रियां आपकी रूप है। तो मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ क्या भगवान भी खरीदे जा सकते हैं पैसों से?
I just
okay. See, even a question like that, my panelists answer.
I have also.
Okay.
उन्होंने दुर्गा की बात की
जी
है,
जी जी
जो हिंदुस्तान की पहली सरोगेटेड बेबी थी,
सरोगेट नहीं,
उसका नाम
IVF बेबी का नाम दुर्गा था, जो कलकत्ते में हुई थी डॉक्टर चक्रवर्ती के,
उसका नाम था, तो उसका बाद में नाम उन्होंने दुर्गा रखा था। तो इनका जो रेफरेंस है वो दुर्गा से वहाँ जुड़ता है।
I just want to add to that, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the emotion behind that question is that is it exploitative? Are we not exploiting women? And let's be very clear, let's not beat about the bush. It is exploitative. Whether it is done by an Indian or a foreigner or a Martian, it is exploitative. You are going to always have richer couples commissioning poorer women to carry babies for them. So let's not beat around the bush. It is exploitative. Having said that, can we regulate it? Should we regulate it? Who do we keep out? Who do we let in? You know, I personally don't have a problem with foreigners or Indians. I see them both as the same lens. Have a level playing field, bring in your regulation, and but recognize that this is a deeply exploitative business.
Right. अच्छा प्रिया, आप हमें ये बताएं कि आपका जो अपना बच्चा है वो लड़का है या लड़की?
लड़का है।
लड़का है। तो अगर अब आपकी लड़की होती है तो क्या आपके दिमाग में आएगा जरा सा भी कि अब ये बच्चा मैंने क्योंकि पैदा किया है, लड़की है, अगर मैं रख लूँ तो मेरी फैमिली कंप्लीट हो जाएगी?
नहीं नहीं, ऐसा बात कोई दिमाग में नहीं आएगी।
कोई आपकी इमोशंस अटैच्ड हैं बच्चे के साथ अभी?
नहीं नहीं, ये तो उनकी बच्चा है ना, हम तो पाल रहे हैं कुक में।
Most of them say this. Absolutely.
हमारे इसमें क्या लगता है, हमारा बच्चा तो है नहीं, ये तो जैसे कि ट्रांसफर किया जाता है, उनके कोख में हम पाल रहे हैं।
तो आप उसके लिए तैयार हैं दिमाग से?
हाँ, दिमाग से तैयार हैं।
यस।
मैं प्रिया जी, मैं जब वहाँ गई थी आनंद में, मैंने बहुत से सरोगेट मदर के इंटरव्यू लिए थे जिन्होंने भी, मतलब वो दूसरी बार कर रही थी और वो हमेशा कहती थी, आप पूछते थे आपके कितने बच्चे हैं, सालों के बाद वो कहेंगी हमने चार पैदा किए, दो अपने दो, तो they will always, it is very difficult to carry a child for 9 months and give it up, even though intellectually, mentally you know that this is not yours, but it is a very difficult, you have nurtured this child in you know, it's been in you, it's a part of you, and to give it up is very difficult, and I'm sure doctors will all agree, it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
You know, they cry, and you know, sometimes when you have fetal reduction, I have met people who said कि हमने बहुत मैडम से बोला कि 2 बच्चे हैं, कमिश्निंग कपल को एक ही चाहिए, तो एक हमें दे दीजिए, हम रख लेंगे, and they say no.
Well, these could have, I don't know what implications, but let's go to the next viewer. This is Rajinder from Jaipur. So Rajinder, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
All right, welcome to the show and please go ahead.
Yeah, my question is this, that the surrogate mother delivers a baby, before it is handed over to the commissioning parents, is the DNA test done with the father and the mother to make sure that the child is theirs only?
Now that's an interesting question, but interesting questions will get answers only after a break. So you please stay put, wait for us to come back, and for the others, please keep your questions ready, as we are all going to come on the other side. Welcome back. This is Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about foreigners being banned from hiring surrogates. Well, folks, if there's any of you who's still sitting with a question, just pick up your phone and try calling us on these numbers which are running on your screen. That is 1800115314 and 23035420. Well, before we went into the break, we had with us Rajinder from Jaipur, and Abha, I think only you are equipped to answer this question. He asked something interesting, that is the DNA of the baby checked before this baby is actually given to the commissioning parents?
Yeah, before the 2005 bill was tabled, we were doing this, that we were looking into the DNA, but now unless there is a controversy, we don't need to look into the DNA testing. However, if there is any controversy regarding the gestational mother giving away the child to the commissioning parents, or the commissioning parents have any question regarding the ART clinic having posed their embryos into the surrogate, then DNA testing is absolutely in order.
Okay, okay. Otherwise, it's not really
Otherwise,
required.
it's not
All right.
required.
So, Rajendra, I hope you are satisfied with that answer. Now, okay, Namita, now in our country, we know that there are many babies who are given up for whatever reasons. So, adoption is something that many people will opt for, and they must. But over there are tight regulations, there's a lot of paperwork to be done, and you have to keep waiting sometimes for months and years together, and then you get a baby. Now, these are babies who are actually looking for a loving home. But here in surrogacy, regulation, nothing. I mean, we are still only hovering, around those guidelines. So don't you think that should also be one option that should be exercised, and also it has to be advocated in such a manner that parents see that, okay, this is another option that we can go for?
Lottie, you have stolen the words from my heart. I think it's so ironical that in our country, where you have so many babies unwanted in orphanages, unable to find homes.
Yes.
Only a fraction of the babies who are in orphanages or even the older children actually find homes. And if that child is a special child or a special needs child, nobody wants that child.
Yes.
Nobody wants that child. Everybody wants. And when, again, I had traveled to Anand, to Gujarat, and I asked every parent, every commissioning parent I asked, I said, why don't you do adoption? So, of course, they said, I mean, that it's too difficult, it's too complex. So, I said, you have, on one hand, you have adoption, which has too over-regulated, too tight, and let's be fair.
Rightly so.
Rightly
also.
so.
Yes.
We have to have due diligence.
Correct.
This is a human child, and it is not just... And then you have surrogacy, which was completely unregulated and is completely unregulated. And between the two, you don't have a via media. So I would say maybe a good solution would be to meet somewhere in the middle, ease in adoption norms, make it easier for couples who want children, who want families to adopt. And tighten norms over here, tighten surrogacy norms, so you are protecting the rights of the surrogate, the rights of the commissioning parents, and the right of the child, as was pointed
I agree
out.
totally with Namita. I think this is exactly what needs to be done, and we need to do this very quickly. And along with making laws for surrogacy, we have to loosen out somewhere on adoption laws.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that it encourages more people to come up and actually adopt those beautiful babies who are just waiting for loving parents. I can tell you that. Well, folks, we have another viewer. This is Prakhyat from Bangalore. So, Prakhyat, are you there with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the show, and please go ahead.
My question, rather than questioning, it's my opinion that instead of banning this, regulation is more right decision actually.
Right.
Because many surrogates are poor middle class women, some are illiterate, and rarely they are educated. And today in newspaper I read that it's around $400 million turnover. So instead of banning the foreigners, especially like what happened in Nepal, a tragedy that many surrogates were there in Nepal. They were carrying babies for the gay Israelis couples. So they got stuck in the Nepal for born babies. So instead of banning it, regulation would be the more
viable option. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining in, Prakhyat. Your comment, sir, because this is exactly what we are really talking about.
Because it's a very complicated issue, and most of the court in India, High Court, 3 High Courts and 1 Supreme Court, Law Commission, Women and Child Welfare Ministry, everybody is deliberating on this issue. And we need, because UNO has restricted commercial surrogacy in totality. So there can be no commercial surrogacy. Foreigners came because there are gay marriages in abroad. So it is one of the issue whether gay parents can be allowed to have a surrogated child in India. And because India does not accept these marriages, these parents, gay marriage parents, they cannot have child from the surrogated mother. Basically, whenever a government of India, another person who is coming from the other country, they have make up their arrangement for these children, it will be a very difficult because their nationality, their DNA, their Succession Act, their Property Act, their rights, they can be hampered. So for all these things, a detailed deliberation is necessary, and I think that in the years to come, we will come to settle down.
Right. And also, sir, I would want to ask you, would you agree with all the ladies here who are saying that the adoption laws finally have to be loosened up? They have to be made easy and more accessible so that parents with even limited education are able to go and exercise the adoption.
Earlier, Adoption Act was very liberal in India. Anybody can go and adopt a child after giving an affidavit to the SDM court. But so many cases crop up where the child abuse was very high. People take the child for trafficking, they use their sexually and other motives. So after that, Government of India make a restrict law. And there are some religious issue also, because some of our organizations made an issue that they are taking Hindu child to Christianity, they are taking some child to that, and that is also a very sensitive issue. So for the
people in
Adoption
India
Act,
are sensitive about rubbish. Actually,
They are sensitive about
everything rather than what they have to be.
but they create trouble.
Correct.
So that's why government make a very harsh adoption laws
now.
They has
it's
to
becoming
be
difficult by the day.
They have to be. I think that there must be some agency who look after the adoption welfare of a child. If they find that the child is anyway is misused,
they have
then
to.
They have
every
to
6 months you've got to submit a report.
Juvenile Justice Act is under consideration.
Yes.
No, but every 6 months you've got to submit a report as to how is the child doing.
Yes.
And
After adoption.
It's a very good thing. After adoption, yes.
Now, I'll just give a small example here. Like you said, adoption, they've made rules stringent. On the other side, embryo donation is like right, left and center, anyone can have it. Parents educated hai ki nahi, whether they are earning well, whether they'll be able to support the child, how old are they, are they really of the parents' age or grandparents' age? All this never is, nothing is looked into. It's a feather in the cap of the IVF center. Oh, I've had a 65 or 70-year-old mother become a mother. We have to stop. So at our center, we've taken up all adoption rules for embryo donation also, that the child will be safeguarded if we apply that. And so we've started using the same educational qualification, the financial thing, and the age of the parents also.
Why should educational qualification or whether somebody's sexual orientation, gay, straight, bi, why should that matter? Are we saying that gay people or lesbians are less capable of loving, of being loving
this
parents?
Is another debate that you're opening.
We'll have to open up another debate.
This fear of foreigners, actually, I feel is just a way to mask our basic inherent homophobia, which we saw in the Supreme Court, which struck down 377, which had been upheld by the High Court. So, you know, I that's why I said in my introductory remarks that who decides?
Who decides?
Who decides who is fit to be a parent or not?
Absolutely, absolutely.
True. A poor person or an uneducated person is as capable of love, if not more, than you and I. We're not here to sit in judgment.
Absolutely. Well, so on that note, I'd like to say thank you to all four of you that you came and you spoke about this issue. और प्रिया, आपको बहुत-बहुत शुक्रिया कि आप आई और अपने 7 months की pregnancy में आप आई और आपने इतनी अच्छी बातें कहीं और लोगों ने सुनी. Thank you so much. So, well, folks, surrogacy is one measure that can be taken for people who cannot become parents otherwise. But then, as we've all been discussing here, whether foreigners should be left out of this or not, let the courts decide. And I'm sure a lot of debating is actually required for that. But we must understand that this is an industry which should not be only an industry, because there are a lot of emotions involved here, a lot of lives are involved here. So, we must think twice before actually going in for surrogacy and before parents actually commission a surrogate baby for themselves. And adoption is an issue that you all must actually think about, because those are also babies who are looking for loving homes. So do think about that. On that note, it's a wrap up of this show of mine. Catch me next week when I'll be taking up another gender issue. Till then, this is Lotty Alaric saying goodbye and take very good care of yourselves.